Hello, everyone. This is the unique and magnificent show, Legacy of Leaders, and I'm your host, Jon Heymann. I'm excited today. My guest is Leslee Keys from Keys and Associates. She does amazing work in the field of preservation, historical preservation. So let's get right into it. Leslee, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. I like history and always have been sort of the nerdy history kid, but realized that I really felt compelled to help people understand and appreciate history through places. So that's where historic preservation comes in. So I have worked in Dayton, Ohio. I did live in the Florida Keys doing hurricane recovery based out of Key West. I am a Kentucky colonel, so I worked in Louisville, Kentucky as well. Most of my time has been in Florida. 40 years ago, I did move to Jacksonville and was the director at Riverside Avondale Preservation. And then for the last 20 plus years, I've worked for Flagler College with a little short stint for the State Preservation Office. I've always done consulting on the side as a way to help people preserve their own buildings, to write grants, to when there is a project that required financial incentives, to help package all of that. So
tell me, Leslee, the effect of, we were talking before the show, the effect of hurricanes on both the environment, obviously, but also on tourism and the income that comes into this area, Northeast Florida.
True. First of all, we have more hurricanes in recent years than we did in the past. And I'll use St. Augustine as an example, though. We had Hurricane Matthew, 2016. 10 months later, we had Hurricane Irma, 2017, in September. And by the way, St. Augustine was founded in the middle of a hurricane in 1565. So it's not like it's brand new. It's just that we all tend to pay attention to that first week of September because that's when it really kicks off. But St. Augustine depends on tourism. That's always been the industry. It's a small town. We have height limitations of 35 feet. We have trees, so it's not your typical high-rise part of coastal Florida. But it really depends on the tourists, and Nights of Lights is an event that we hold. It starts right before Thanksgiving. If you have a hurricane in the late fall, they had a major meeting with business owners and people in the community. Are we going to try to get this cleaned up fast enough to put up Nights of Lights? And everybody agreed to, and people pitched in. And we had more people come back to see that we'd recovered. So that was great. But we also learned a lot about being better prepared. Sunny day flooding, we have coquina there, you have coquina here, all the way up to to North Carolina. So water comes up through the ground, too. Cemeteries tend to...
isn't that pleasant? But we've been there so many times in St. Augustine for the lights during Thanksgiving area where the Christmas lights come on in the center of town. If none of you have ever been there, it's an amazing, amazing event. Anyhow, you were a professor at Flagler College as well, correct?
Correct.
Of what?
History. I taught historic preservation, architecture, U.S. history, grant writing.
Wow.
Women's history.
Okay.
So
a lot of history, not just wrapped around the subject of preservation.
Correct.
Okay.
And we would do special topics. So, for example, for St. Augustine's 450th in 2015, I created a historic St. Augustine class, which also was open up to the public. Did a few other little things like help to plan the visit for the King and Queen of Spain and their lunch and dinner that were held in the Hotel Ponce de Leon, the main building.
That's a beautiful building, by the way, and I remember when they were talking about tearing it down because it was in disarray, and I'm so glad that the local community, actually it was all of Northeast Florida, wrapped their arms around that building, and it is just magnificent today. So you had a hand in that.
Well, the major donors for that initial preservation project actually were major players in Jacksonville.
Okay.
For the first pieces, which came actually after the Second World War in the early 1960s, when everybody thought we wanted a Holiday Inn and glass and chrome, and we don't need all that Victorian architecture. So it kind of just hung on. But you did have Elizabeth Morley Towers, who was actually pretty famous here from Jacksonville. Rogers Towers Law Firm is her family.
Right.
She was on the National Red Cross board during World War II, and she would fly to Washington, D.C., but she would come down there and volunteer, and bought one of the historic buildings that was unrestored and put that back together, and you had major corporations in Jacksonville that helped to do that. So there's been a long-standing partnership between the two cities.
I never knew that you had a 35 foot
Yes.
restriction on the height of the buildings. That makes perfect sense, because some of these beach areas, they've got these huge hotels, and it restricts everybody's view if you live 1 or 2 or 3 blocks off the ocean. But St. Augustine's very unique that way.
They instituted that in 1963 as they were getting ready to celebrate the 450th anniversary and the 450th of Ponce de Leon's voyage, and then therefore the city's 400. And they did not ever want anything to break the skyline of the towers on the Hotel Ponce de Leon. So we have one skyscraper. It's 6 stories tall with a little baby tower on it. And then the county in 1999, I think, instituted a 44-foot height limitation. So it's great in that you have trees and we have shade, the density's lower, and if and when we have to evacuate, you have a lot fewer people that need to do that and get away and head west than we would if you were in South Florida, for example.
Well, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for your perspective. Thanks for the work that you've done, especially in that wonderful city of St. Augustine. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about historical preservation with Leslie Keys. She's a wonderful guest. You will see on your television screen how to get a hold of her, and we wish you the best today. Have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate this.